Will he take questions? We don't know. Probably not. Here's the deal. The Republicans sabotaged the talks in order to extend the unemployment compensation, the extra $600. They said that they're offering the $600 for a week. They're offering the $600. Hey, hold on. For a week. They're offering the $600. Hey, hold on. For a week. Serious multiple echoes. Okay, so now we know. For those of you watching on the YouTube, we were able to start the YouTube feed early without the picture, and you could be in the YouTube room chatting. So if you want to join us for a pre-chat next time, I will try and link to YouTube. I'm going to reintroduce myself again because I see that YouTube gets a delayed response anyway. Welcome to the live stream. I am your host, your Heavenly Father, Kevin Williams. We just take a look at the news of the day and talk about what's going on. We're just awaiting the news conference here.
Children,
I'm going to turn off the volume on it and go live. So Trump is in Bedminster, New Jersey. He got there yesterday because, of course, Thursday. Why work beyond Thursday in a pandemic when people have lost their unemployment benefits? So the White House intentionally sabotaged the unemployment benefits earlier today, as well as the eviction moratorium, so that Trump could come out here and do this today and say, oh, I'm working at the Northeastern White House. That's what's going on right now. Did it dump you out of chat? It shouldn't have. I'm still in the chat room. Of course, it's my broadcast. So what I was telling everybody is, if you want to join us in the chat room, you can do that on whatever platform you're watching this on. The best place to do it is in YouTube. YouTube.com/KevinlyFather. And the live link should come up right away. If you don't see it right away, just look under live under YouTube.com/KevinlyFather. Sometimes there's a tab for live, and you'll see it there. And then we can watch this together. You can chat. If you're one of the many who watches without chatting, welcome. So I see one of two things happening here. Trump's going to come out and he's going to rail at the Democrats and Pelosi and Schumer. They don't take things seriously. Then he's are we moving? No. Oh, good. Bring on the senator who cheated on the stock market and got away with it. That's going to work well. Kelly Loeffler, by the way. It's sad that I recognize senators. Like, normal Americans should not recognize a whole bunch of senators besides their own. I might be in the 90s in terms of recognizing actual senators. Kelly Loeffler, Georgia. She's the one who sold a bunch of stock and bought a bunch of stock right before the coronavirus on inside information, because the intelligence agencies were telling the Senate how bad the coronavirus could be potentially. So she bought a whole bunch of stocks that were going to do really well in Zoom, etc. So we're waiting on Trump. He's going to rail at the Democrats and Joe Biden, because, you know, Joe Biden's involved in the negotiations. Then he's going to do a couple of things. He's going to either tease a Monday signing or a Tuesday signing or something. You know, I'm going to save everything very, very, very quick. Very soon, in a very short period of time. He's probably not going to say 2 weeks, because that's outside the ballpark right now. But yeah, he's already 28 minutes late, which means that I'm not going to be able to pick up the glass for my window on time that I broke yesterday or the day before. So I'm going to have to wait till Monday to fix it. It's not my house. But I went through a small glass shop, which I preferred to do because I like to support small businesses. The trouble is, and this is going to happen universally if we don't get those unemployment benefits enhanced. I'll give you a quick picture of my unemployment right now. My daughter, Heavenly daughter, who, by the way, I didn't even finish. Sorry, I'm all over the place. I need something to drink too. This is all I've got to drink right now. You guys hold. Don't let the press conference start without me. I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to get myself something else to drink because I realize this is not going to last me through the whole thing. Plus, this could have been something I did earlier while I was broadcasting, and I didn't want to leave you guys. I'm kidding. Ha! I always want to leave. Oh! Wait. Is it? No. Yeah, so here, listen to this. I'll be right back.
You want to hear from the president, Kristen, as he kind of comes to the podium and gives us some idea of what's happening up on Capitol Hill?
I think he needs to be completely clear about exactly what it is that he expects Congress to send to his desk. Right now, there's a lot of division between the White House and folks in Congress, Senate Republicans, et cetera, over what this ought to look like. Presidential leadership can matter. He can take this opportunity with that bully pulpit to say, here's what I expect you to put on my desk.
And Juan, I mean, if he comes out and says, you know what, I'm going to sign these executive orders, at the very least, we're going to make sure that nobody in America gets evicted for this time frame. Would you be in favor of that? Is that something that will tide us over until these negotiations kick back into high gear?
Well, I think everybody would like to know that we are, as an American people, protected from, very negative fallout like evictions for the time being, because it's a difficult moment. But, Trace, I think there are big questions about that, the possibility of executive action. Usually, anything that has to do with spending, of course, is the province of the Congress. And so the question would be, does the president have that right?
And I guess that's a good question. And the president believes he does. And like Kristen was saying, I guess the issue here is, even if you do that, does it get caught up in litigation? I mean, if he does something, do the Democrats say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put this in litigation. And then those people who are now a week out of getting those unemployment checks and facing, eviction possibly the first of next month, maybe they are sitting there thinking, well, now.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're not getting great throughput. I've already dropped 10% of my frames. Hold on, let me look at the actual broadcast stats. I'm not sure how to fix this. Short of, yeah, it's Norburn. Let me look at this. Let me bring that back up for you. Here you go.
Executive action. But in this case, this is a crisis moment. And so if there was ever a time for the executive to be trying to do their best to protect the American people via executive action, if there are things that don't require the power of the purse, this may be a more appropriate time than just simply, well, hey, Congress isn't doing what I want.
Yeah. Again, if you could stand by, Kristen Soltis-Anderson, Juan Williams. I want to bring in Greg Jarrett. He's a Fox News legal analyst. He's the author of...
Oh, great. Greg Jarrett. So I just lowered the bit rate on the broadcast to try and stop the circles from you guys. I don't know how it's going to affect it. It's the resolution's going to get kind of crappy, but sorry. I don't want you guys to be hung up during this because this is sort of important to me, but I want to give you guys just a quick picture of how things change when you don't have that money. Now, as many of you know, it took 134 days for me to finally get my unemployment money. Without the support of friends and family, I don't know how I would have survived. I don't know how I would have purchased food, etc., because I was just sort of at the end of my pile of money that I'd made previously. I'd been saving. The money was nearly spent. And I saw what was happening, and I thought, well, this is going to last a while because, novel virus, no vaccine, people dying. And so I actually moved out of my apartment and I had to move in other places. So now I'm sort of jumping around in that, trying to save money. The $600 enabled me to do things like, I need to replace the glass. I will pay for the glass. About once a week. When I was up in Seattle, there was a little burger place that had opened up 3 months before the pandemic. Really nice people, barely getting by. I'm not getting by, really, losing money. And I know what it's like to start a small business, especially in the infancy of it. So I went out of my way to support them. Even though I could make a burger at home for $1, I would pay I don't know what it was. It's like $12 for a burger. It was insane. But I want to pass that money down. And when everyone's making on unemployment, remember that's almost 20% in some areas, more in some areas. When people are making that extra $600 on top of whatever they're supposed to be making for unemployment, there's a few dollars more there that they can put into the economy. The money doesn't get hoarded. It gets spent. So it's really just a stimulus package. Why the Republicans think it's a good idea to stop it right now, 3 months before the election, so that the retail numbers, etc., will start tanking? Oh, hold on. You guys watch this.
All acts of corruption and wrongdoing and abuse of power constitute felony crimes under the law. And he's absolutely right about that. but I think there will be some select indictments. I would expect the FBI agent who doctored evidence in order to spy on the Trump campaign and lied to the FISA court. I think that's an indictment for sure. I think there'll be others, perhaps some whose names are not familiar, others whose names may be familiar, but there should be indictments because.
All right, good news for those of you following Sega of me breaking the glass in a door. They're going to leave that outside for me. And I'm not going to tell you why, because one of you will race to the glass shop and find it in the secret hidden space. It's behind the planter. Where else would it be? But the odds of a criminal out there checking behind planters at glass shops for a very specific cut of glass, very low. So I'm not particularly worried about you guys. It's on CNN already. Oh, here we go.
The President of the United States is at the podium.
Hail to the chief. Wow.
Thank you very much, and it's a great honor to have everybody
to
here.
Be an American.
I know the press was not quite expecting this, so I appreciate your being able to attend.
This was set up. This was set up.
A terrific number of things and some very positive things to tell you tonight. I want to begin by giving an update on the economy. Economic health is vital to public health. That's why our strategy to kill the China virus is focused on protecting those at greatest risk while allowing younger and healthy Americans to safely return to work and safely return to school. Very important. We added 1.8 million new jobs in July, exceeding predictions for the third month in a row.
None of them are new
and
jobs.
Adding a total of over 9.3 million jobs since May. And I will say that the job growth that we've seen over the last 3 months, 9.3 million, is the single greatest 3-month period of job creation in American history. That's big stuff. That's big news and great news. Over the past 3 months, the United States has surpassed market expectations by a total of 12 million new jobs. Over the last 3 months, the United States has added 623,000 manufacturing jobs. Remember, you'd need a magic wand to get manufacturing jobs.
Lost 1.5 million.
And we're getting them
we
even
are
in
down 700,000
a pandemic,
which
is
jobs.
Disappearing. It's going to disappear. And 639,000 brand new construction jobs.
Those are not
Over half of the new jobs are full-time jobs, and wages are up by 4.8%, which is terrific. Unemployment has fallen by nearly 30% since April. Think of that, 30% since April. Hispanic American unemployment has decreased by nearly 32%. Jobs held by African Americans, which were hit especially hard by the shutdowns, incredibly hard, increased by nearly 1 million over the past 3 months, and that's also a record. That's a job record. African American, 1 million, it's a job record. We must ensure that the progress continues. My administration has enacted over $3 trillion in historic relief since China allowed the virus to infect the world. So we've contributed $3 trillion. My administration continues to work in good faith to reach an agreement with Democrats in Congress that will extend unemployment benefits, provide protections against evictions.
Oh, you're not going to
do anything? A terrible thing happens with evictions. Not fair.
Is he not going to address that?
It wasn't their fault that we were infected with this disease from China. And get relief to American families. Yet tragically, Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer continue to insist on radical left-wing policies that have nothing to do with the China virus, nothing to do with it at all.
Right. So are you going to pretend to fix it?
So you have a virus that comes in, and you have people in Congress that don't want to help our people. If Democrats continue to hold this critical relief hostage, I will act under my authority as president to get Americans the relief they need.
So this is a press conference about
what
nothing.
We're talking about is deferring the payroll tax for a period of months till the end of the year, and I can extend it at a certain period. Hopefully, I will be here to do the job. We're going to do the job. We've been doing a job like nobody could. Nobody would, actually.
Nobody would like
And so we're going to have the payroll tax go till the end of the year, and it'll be retroactive to July 1st.
I don't have a job.
So we're going to go back to July 1st.
I do not have a job right now.
It'll go to the end of the year, payroll tax. At the end of the year, it may be extended.
25 million Americans do not have a job right now.
Benefits through the end of the year. So unemployment benefits will be, that's a big one.
Yeah.
Will be
Two different
brought
things.
out to the end of the year.
What does that mean?
And defer student loan payments and forgive interest until further notice. So students who are paying student loans, and in many cases they're not even allowed to go back into their colleges, extend the eviction moratorium. We will be extending that
with college.
so people aren't evicted. Not their fault.
You don't go back to college
We
if you're
had
paying
a
your student
lengthy
loans.
discussion this morning with President Macron of France concerning
never
numerous
had
subjects,
student
but in
loans.
particular the catastrophic event which took place in Beirut, Lebanon.
30 million.
Horrible, horrible event.
Sure.
At 3 p.m. this
35 million.
afternoon, I spoke with President Aoun of Lebanon to inform him that 3 large aircraft are on the way, and they're fully loaded with medical supplies, food, water, and
Well, that's good.
many other things. Lots of emergency equipment.
So
Also,
this is
first
an emergency
responders,
update on-
technicians, doctors, and nurses are on their way. This was an event like the world has not seen for a long time.
Okay. Just FYI, the audience there is the press pool, and then also a bunch of members of the Bedminster Club. He's at his own club, and a bunch of members there apparently came in to see what was going on, and now they're part of the audience.
They all want to help. The United States is
Lebanon.
with authorities on the ground right now in Lebanon to identify further health and humanitarian needs, and we will provide further assistance in the period to come. We're working very closely with their government and with their leaders. And on behalf of the United States, I want to extend our condolences to all of the families, a much larger number of families than anybody would have thought and than anybody at first thought. But all of those families who lost loved ones, relatives, friends in this horrible tragedy, we stand firmly with the people of Lebanon and will continue to offer our full support through this very difficult time. We have not seen anything like this in a long time.
It's Lebanon.
As you know, earlier this week I met with American workers at the Tennessee Valley Authority who have been laid off by the leadership at the Tennessee Valley Authority. As you know, this is a form of utility. It's been around for a long time, since FDR.
The Tennessee Valley Authority is a form of
the head
utility.
person, not controlled by government,
Yes.
but it's sort of semi-public in a sense, gets paid the highest salary in the world of government. He gets $8 million a year. That's not a bad amount of money.
No, it's not.
It's $8 million a year, and we are not accepting that, even though we're not the ones that appoint him or her, but in this case him. We're not accepting somebody getting paid $8 million a year. This has been going on for many years.
He's probably not even going to take questions.
And we will do something about that, and we're already in negotiations right now, including possible termination. They and hundreds of their fellow American tech workers, the workers at the TVA, were being terminated from their positions on top of all of this and on top of the $8 million salary and a chief of staff who makes much more than $1 million a year.
Well, you did say you were going to cut
But
government.
on top of all that,
So-
they were being terminated from their positions, these incredible people, in order to train the lower-cost foreign workers imported to replace them. How's that for a law?
Imported?
And this was set up originally to create jobs and economic development. And now they're getting fired, and they're supposed to train people for a much lower, who get a much lower salary.
And how much
It's
did you
crazy.
cut their budget?
This was a grave injustice. I fired the chairman of the board in response.
Talk about a grave injustice. I just
On
dropped
Friday, I
an
fired the
espresso
chairman of the
bean
board
on the floor.
along with one other board member.
Talk about injustice.
That's the one thing we have. We have the right to fire board members. and I made it clear that if they did not swiftly reverse course, I would continue with these firings of the board members.
My blue, his blue.
And we just were informed that they have agreed to change course totally. And today I'm proud to announce that a major victory for the workers of Tennessee and Kentucky and other areas that are covered, great states, that the leadership of the TVA has canceled all of the layoffs and given hundreds of American workers their jobs back.
Hold on.
They're being rehired as we speak. In this administration, we live by two rules: buy American and hire American. You can't do that. You can't fire all our workers and hire people back from other faraway parts of the world at lower prices, especially when they have to train the people. And they can never train them as good as what you have, because they've been there for many years. They've done a fantastic job. And they love the TVA. We had a lot of people in the office the other day. A lot of the media was covering it. They love the Tennessee Valley Authority. So, and they're so proud to work for it. But this happened, and it was a terrible thing. So now they're going to get their jobs back. They're all going to be getting their jobs back.
That's as close as I can get.
Nearly every nation on earth continues to combat the virus. A number of countries are seeing a surge in new cases, including Japan, the Philippines, major parts of Europe. Cases continue to surge in Latin America. It's right now the most infected place anywhere in the world.
It is not.
They've more than doubled in recent days. Latin America is doing very little testing. They're not really equipped to do that. It's tough. In the United States, more than 80% of jurisdictions report declining cases. We're doing very well. You don't hear that too often from the media, but we're doing very well. We have a very large country, very complex country in a sense. More than half of America's counties report fewer than 20 cases last week.
1,200 new dead in the United States.
So if you look at that, more than half of America's counties report fewer than 20 cases last week. But we have to remain vigilant. We're doing very well, but we have to remain vigilant.
Japan surged,
nationally,
1,200 cases.
The percentage of emergency room visits with the coronavirus symptoms is down to almost half what it was in July.
That's their surge.
The southern states that were very strong hotspots not long ago, Arizona, Texas, Florida, continue.
I want to make him silent for a second. 1,200 deaths in the United States yesterday. In Japan, I can do it on one hand.
Virus inpatients since mid-June, it's gone. The governor was up, and we had a great meeting, Governor Ducey, and the meeting was terrific. But since mid-June, so they're doing well, and it's going down, heading down very rapidly, actually. Texas is stabilizing and improving rapidly with some progress in the Rio Grande Valley and other communities along the border with Mexico that had shown the biggest increases in hospitalizations and deaths. Florida is also stabilizing. Its statewide positive test rate continues to decrease from 13% on July 23rd to 8% this week. Florida's done very well.
Hold on.
It's going down. It's heading down actually quite rapidly. And even Miami, which was the hottest spot in Florida, is heading downward. But Florida has done very well. Texas has done very well and rapidly. And Arizona has done incredibly well. So Arizona's really been a very rapid drop. New Jersey and New York remain stable with less than 1% of emergency room visits due to the China virus. The illness took a devastating toll on both states, as you know. While both states
Florida
really took the brunt of the infection earlier this year. Thankfully, we have not seen a resurgence. They've been doing a good job. Everybody's working very hard. Both governors are working very, very hard. We're in touch with them. We're supplying them with a lot of supplies as needed, if needed.
Oh, supplying them with supplies.
But they're needing very little right now. They're in very good shape.
Supplies
we will
tend to be the
continue
best
to
supplies.
monitor the new cases. Throughout this crisis, my administration has provided extraordinary support of people, equipment, medical supplies to the people of New Jersey, the people of New York, and to the people of every state, all of our states. We're carefully monitoring California's Central Valley, as well as San Diego, Los Angeles, Sacramento, and San Francisco, which are starting to stabilize and go down. We're carefully watching regions from increasing cases, including Boston and Chicago, as well as the Midwest. We're watching them all very carefully. It's vital that all Americans work together to protect the vulnerable.
6,500.
For this reason, we've delivered vast amounts of protective
yesterday.
equipment and testing supplies to nursing homes all across America. We're focused very much on the elderly, especially the elderly where they have heart problems or diabetes problems. Diabetes is a big problem. Approximately half of all deaths have occurred in nursing homes and long-term care facilities. That's an incredible number when you hear half of the deaths have been in nursing homes and
half of them have been outside the nursing homes.
Care facilities. And I will tell you that I met with owners and representatives of nursing homes, and they are very, very vigilant. They're doing a very good job now. They've really done something that I think is special. They're doing very well in terms of the virus. They're working very hard, and a lot of things happened. A lot of forces came together and hit the nursing homes very hard. But the representatives of nursing homes, in some cases the ownership of nursing homes, are working very hard. The federal government and the private sector have delivered more than 9 million N95 masks, 27 million surgical masks, 3 million face shields, 20 million gowns, and 668 million gloves.
Yeah, this is just
to
a
New Jersey alone.
session.
Think of that.
He's not going to sign anything.
We provided $3.4 billion to the state of New Jersey in emergency relief funding. So we happen to be in New Jersey right now, so those are great numbers. The governor's working very hard. Governor Murphy's doing a good job. We're working very closely with him. We've also provided nearly $5 billion to New Jersey hospitals and healthcare facilities. And through the Paycheck Protection Program that you all know so well, we provided $23 billion to support more than 250,000 New Jersey small businesses. A lot of the small businesses that you see that are opening now and going to do well, they're there because of what we did with Paycheck Protection. On therapeutics and vaccine updates, 3 vaccine candidates have now moved into phase 3 trials. This would be years ahead of schedule. We have done wonders with the FDA. I want to thank the FDA and all of the great people there, and Dr. Hahn. But we have phase 3 trials already going on, which is most people would have said impossible to even think about. Today, Pfizer announced that it will manufacture Gilead's drug remdesivir, where we've had tremendous success. Last week alone, my administration procured and distributed over 120,000 vials of remdesivir, enough to treat more than 19,000 patients. Plasma treatments continue to show incredibly encouraging results, really incredible what's going on.
I don't know whether he's going to ad-lib a whole lot because he wants to get back to his vacation. It's Friday, so he didn't work today.
If you could, go to a blood bank and donate. That would be a tremendous help.
Plasma?
The United States is only 5% of the world's population.
And yet
but we
have
have conducted over
deaths.
25% of the world's testing. Think of that, 5%, and
dead.
we've given 25% of the world's testing. Any proper global analysis of confirmed cases must really take this into account because we're constantly showing cases. Cases are up.
Yeah, 59,000
Well, the reason
yesterday.
cases are up because we're doing one of the reasons. We're doing a lot of testing. We're doing much more testing than anyone else. Close to 65 million tests, where other countries have done very little testing. They'll test people if they get
20
sick.
million,
They'll
30
test
million,
people if they go into the
100
hospital.
million.
They'll test certain people. We're doing tremendous testing, and we're especially doing big testing at the nursing homes. Over the last week, the testing turnaround times have declined significantly as our major commercial.
And we have the best testing. Just ask the governor of Ohio, who had the virus and was cured in a day.
More of the tests, which are the 5-minute to 15-minute result tests. Testing samples from multiple patients.
The results are that you have it if you don't, but they're great.
in one batch is also something that we're very focused on and doing. But
can't do it.
In the not too distant future, we'll have so many tests where it's a quick test. They call it a quick test, 5 minutes to 15 minutes. So we won't even have to worry too much about the process of sending and receiving. Because if you figure it takes a day to send and a day to receive, and let's say a day at the laboratory, that's 3 days right there. And the other tests, you can have them in 5 to 15 minutes. Over the next 2 weeks, I'll be pursuing a major executive order requiring health insurance companies to cover all pre-existing conditions for all customers. That's a big thing. I've always been very strongly in favor. We have to cover pre-existing conditions. So we will be pursuing a major executive order requiring health insurance companies to cover all pre-existing conditions for all of its customers. This has never been done before, but it's time the people of our country are properly represented and properly taken care of. This follows a series of executive orders to lower drug prices and lower prescription drug prices, and significantly. We had the only year, which was last year, where drug prices went down in 51 years.
Not for actual consumers.
But we're talking about going down at a level that nobody has even thought possible now.
You're going down. You are going down,
even though the drug companies are running very big ads on me, but that's usually a reason. They're not too happy. They can't be too thrilled. But they've made a lot of money over the years, and prices just go up. Not fair. This includes a landmark executive order requiring drug companies to change Americans and charge Americans no more than.
This is such BS. He's not going to. All he's doing is go over. He's just listing his victories. This, you might as well be watching Hannity right now.
Germany gets drugs at a very small or low price.
Good night, Kim.
And we're paying many times that price in the United States because we pay for all of the research, the development, the promotion, and other things. We will get what's called a favored nations clause we're going to have, and I signed a favored nations clause, so that the United States, which is the number one purchaser of drugs by far in the world, biggest purchaser in the world, not even close. You have other countries that are bigger. If you look at India, China, etc., not too many. But we have countries that are bigger, but not even close in terms of ordering drugs. We're the number one country in the world. But we have a favored nation, so if somebody has a drug, in many cases it comes from a plant, the same plant. It's the same pill, it's the same medicine or medication. Whatever the lowest country charges. So if Germany charges 10 cents for a pill and we charge $2, and I only use Germany as an example, then we get that
$2.
We get that for 10 cents. So what's going to happen is that's going to go up a little bit, and ours is going to come down a whole lot. So it's favored nations, and I will tell you that Big Pharma is not happy.
Sludge.
For too long, we've been forced to subsidize cheaper drug prices in foreign countries. We've subsidized them to a level that nobody can believe. Nobody talked about it. Everybody wondered, how come every president that runs for office says they're going to lower drug prices? And they never do. They go through the roof.
You didn't.
Over the last administration, they went up
lobby.
Like skyrocketing. That's Biden. Biden's not going to be able to do it. He has no clue. So what's happening is we are going to be working to get rid of all the subsidy to foreign lands, and we're going to give essentially all of the benefit that, frankly, they have as great negotiators. Those benefits are going to go to our people. So it's called a favored nations clause, and you can look it up and you can see. And
hold on, I'm going to look
nobody's had the courage to institute it, to call it, because it's a very big step. But it's something that is going to drive drug prices down 50, 60, maybe even 70%. Talking about numbers that are unbelievable. I also signed an executive order stopping middlemen from taking advantage of Medicare patients by charging higher prices to them and pocketing the discounts for themselves. These are some of the richest people in the world. Everyone talked about middlemen. I've heard about him for years.
He's heard. I've heard this middleman guy.
Prescription drug
he
prices.
sounds like a globalist.
I guess you'd have to say, to be politically correct,
I mean Jewish,
middlemen
but I'm not
and
going to
women.
say that out loud.
But you never heard the middlewoman before. You heard middlemen. That's the term. And, say what you want about the drug companies, but at least the drug companies produce a product. They produce the pill. They produce the medicine, the medication.
Yeah.
But these people make billions and billions of dollars. I don't know who they are, but they're very rich.
They're middlemen.
But they won't be so rich anymore. This executive order requires
he is a Yosemite.
these $30 billion in discounts to go straight to the American patients.
The Slenderman.
So the middleman's going to be knocked out. And I'm going to lose a lot of friends, even though I have no idea who these people are.
We have middlemen at the border.
On opioids, I'm pleased to announce that my administration invested an additional $100 million to fight the opioid crisis in rural America. In the midst of the China virus pandemic, we also keep fighting to end the opioid epidemic, and we've done very well. It was prior to the virus, we were down 18, 19, and 20%. But when you think about it, that means that you have 80%.
Well, the president holding a surprise news conference at his golf club in Bedminster, New Jersey, talking about the economy and what the administration is doing to save jobs, the progress against coronavirus and therapeutics and vaccines. The president says he will sign an executive order to cover pre-existing conditions and more. Took a swipe at Joe Biden.
In somebody's knapsack, and they say, no, I'm just here to have a good time. These are really
his golf members laughing.
Disturbed people.
Golf laugh.
The disgraced mayor of the city has ordered the
I hope this is the applause he
stand
gets at
down
the end.
in the face of rioters, leaving his citizens at the mercy of this mob. He was at the mercy of the mob too. If you saw him go out there the other day, it was terrible. He went out there and they wanted to rip him apart.
And NBC ignored it?
But fortunately, he had 5 people with him.
Which he didn't?
Called security.
Yeah.
Mayor Wheeler has abdicated his duty and surrendered his city to the mob.
I'd rather be picking out glass right now.
Descended upon a police precinct and tried to burn it down, tear it down, rip it down. An act of attempted
but it's made of concrete and marble, so they couldn't.
Left-wing violent extremism poses an increasing threat to our country. And we stop it. You have no idea how much we stop.
Yeah.
But it's
okay,
an
honestly,
ideology
though,
we have to stop.
Oregon should call in
when
the National Guard
you commit
and stop
arson,
it. It is ridiculous
a quote
now.
from the mayor.
I know some of those
He's
a-holes
come a long
up there.
way. Just made this.
The anarchists.
When
they're
you
not even
commit
Antifa.
arson
They're just
an
assholes.
accelerant in the attempt to burn down a building that is occupied by people who have intentionally
That's how
been
occupied
trapped inside.
works.
You're not a demonstrator, or you're not demonstrating.
He's stealing
Mayor
the line
Whelan.
from the
You're
mayor.
attempting to commit murder. That's come a long way. He's come a long way when he made that statement. What you're seeing in Portland is the radical left's agenda in action. Portland is their roadmap for America. If the radical left gets in and they treat Joe Biden as a puppet, he's merely a puppet.
None of them are running.
But if the radical left gets in, they look at Portland as a thing that they want. That's what they want.
They're anarchists. They don't want any government.
Why?
They don't
Who
vote.
knows? Doesn't matter. It's a different thinking, but it's a mess.
Sorry,
And
Dr.
I
Howard.
want to thank Homeland Security. They've done a fantastic job. We had our people go in. They
Who's the
stopped
president of Portland?
any
He should do
intrusion
something.
into the courthouse. And the courthouse was saved, and other federal buildings were saved. And we would like to be asked by the mayor and the governor. We will go in and stop the problems in Portland in 24 hours, just like we did in Minneapolis after they really hurt that city. But the National Guard went in and did a phenomenal job. It was over in 3 hours.
3 days.
After watching 6 days of horror, it ended in 3 hours. You all saw the scene of them walking right down the street.
Yeah, are you going to give me my money?
It
or
was
no?
actually
the money I've been paying
an
into the system for
unfortunate
33 years.
view, but an incredible view of how to do things. So we would be able to solve the Portland situation immediately, but we are supposed to be asked. If we're not asked, and if it continues, we'll have to make a decision. But it's a very easy thing for us to do. We could stop it.
We're going to solve Portland immediately. Yes, we were there, and we didn't solve it immediately, but we could solve it immediately.
If the Democrats controlled in Washington, the Democrats' control of Washington, they'd pass with all of the things they do, legislation gutting every single police department in America. They truly do. Many of these people want to defund the police department.
Some of them do.
At a minimum, they're going to stop money from going to the police department, but in many cases, they actually want to defund completely the police department.
Some of them do.
No city, no town, and no suburb would be safe. Your suburbs would be a disaster. Your cities, your towns would be a disaster.
Suburbs?
They want every city to be a Portland or to be a Chicago, which is totally out of control, and we're waiting for the mayor. We've sent people in to help them from an intelligence standpoint, but we're waiting for them to call the governor, the mayor. We could do a very good job in Chicago. Nobody's ever seen anything like that. This country.
Oh, they're still covering them.
And yet, nationwide, numbers are good despite the Chicagos and the Portlands, and frankly, the New Yorks, when you look at what's truly don't know what they're doing. So just like we saved the courthouse, we will save the United States of America. And a vast majority of people agree with me. A vast majority. Most people. They don't speak up as much as they could, but we know they're
just so you know, a vast majority is most people.
There, and everybody else knows they're there too. So with that, I'll take a few questions from the media. They've been here for a long time, and they've been waiting outside for a long time.
Why are you doing this?
They wait for these moments. It's always a lot of fun. Please go ahead.
It's just the press pool, by the way, so this is not the full media. And the people laughing, they're members of his club. The club members who pay $250,000. I don't know how much they charge now for Bedminster, but these are Trump golf club members in the audience watching this, and that's why you hear the tittering.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Mr. President. I have a couple of questions on the negotiations with Capitol Hill.
But wait a minute. Someone just tried to ask a question. He's like, no, you.
These executive
Now I just want to hear the other one.
The orders you mentioned, do you have a timeline on when you're going to sign them, or?
Yeah, it could be by the end of the week. They're being drawn by the lawyers right now. They work very nicely. It would be nice to be able to do it with the Democrats, but they're really just interested in one thing, and that's protecting people that have not done a good job in managing cities and states, and nothing to do with COVID, nothing to do with, or little to do. They want to be able to.
I mean, I'll admit it. I haven't done a good job managing cities and states, and I don't mind if the Democrats want to protect me. But yeah, I've done a terrible job, quite frankly, managing just the stuff in the garage. Hell, I broke a window yesterday. I'm a goddamn rioter.
Make up for many, many years, in some cases decades of bad management. We can't do that. So that's what they want. They want to do that, and we don't want to do that.
Are you concerned about the legality of these executive orders?
No, not at all. No, if somebody, well, you always get sued. I mean, everything you do, you get sued. I was sued on the travel ban, and we won. I was sued on a lot of things, and we won. So we'll see. Yeah, probably we get sued, but people feel that we can do it. Jeff, go ahead.
Thank you, sir. Mr. President, the intelligence agencies today said that Russia is already meddling in this year's election to hurt Joe Biden, and that China is considering meddling to hurt you. Do you believe that intelligence, and what do you plan to do about it?
It could be. I mean, I could be very much. I think that the last person Russia wants to see in office is Donald Trump, because nobody's been tougher on Russia than I have ever.
No, the intelligence says that the Russians want him in office.
That's not what the intelligence says.
Well, I don't care what
Jeff.
Anybody says. Nobody with any common sense would say, do it. Look at what we've done with our military.
That's the intelligence. So I guess our intelligence doesn't have any common sense. This is the DNI, the Director of National Intelligence, that said that Russia wants Trump in office, doesn't want Biden in office.
And look at what we've done in exposing the pipeline with billions of dollars going to Russia. Look at all of the things we've done with NATO, where I've raised $130 billion.
He thinks he exposed the fact that Germany is buying natural gas from Russia. Everyone knows that's how the world. Russia has natural gas. Germany and the rest of Europe need natural gas because they don't have huge natural gas reserves. They purchase natural gas from Russia. He thinks he exposed it.
A year from countries that were delinquent, and now they're paying all of this money. And the 130, by the way, 130 billion.
I don't know why he's doing this.
Dollars, not million, billion.
No, sorry. I do know why he's doing this. The same reason he does anything. Trump. I just don't know why anyone's paying any attention to that, including us.
And goes to 400 billion over a few years.
Oh, by the way, I was right. The first thing I said was he's going to say, yeah, we're going to sign something in a very short period of time. This is just a teaser. This has nothing to do with actually helping Americans.
And that's all money to protect against Russia. China would love us to have an election where Donald Trump lost to sleepy Joe Biden. They would dream. They would own our country.
Yes.
If Joe Biden was president.
China doesn't want him in because he's unpredictable, and the Chinese like predictability. Putin knows that he can do whatever he wants to us and, pay for our soldiers to get killed. And Trump won't do anything because Trump admires him.
China would own our country. And you said another country. What was the third country?
No, just those two.
No, you didn't. You didn't say then.
I don't make the big bucks, Joanna. I'm waiting for him to sign an executive order to give me the big bucks.
The report said Iran also, but you didn't say that. Iran would love to see me. Iran would love to see me not be president. And I'll make this statement: if and when we win, we will make deals with Iran very quickly. We'll make deals with North Korea very quickly. And whatever happened to the war in North Korea?
You've been around for 4 years. Why? What's stopping you?
You haven't seen that, have you? If I didn't win the election.
No, we haven't seen a war with North Korea. With you or with Biden. Either term. Or with Bush. Or with anyone going back to the 1950s. But yeah.
In 2016, our country would now be, maybe it would be over by now, but in war with North Korea. Everybody said, oh, Trump will get us in war. Not just the opposite. And we actually have a relationship with North Korea, which is something that was never established by the previous administration. You would have been in war with North Korea, and it would have been a very bad war. So North Korea, whether you look at Iran, every one of them will make a deal with us very quickly. Iran is dying to make a deal.
By the way, absolutely zero evidence that we'd be at war with North Korea. None.
But they want to see, because they'd much rather make a deal with Biden. Because if they make a deal with the United States, if China makes a deal with the United States with Biden in charge, they would own our country. Look what I've done. I've taken billions, tens of billions of dollars from China.
Tens of billions of dollars from American importers who then pass the cost on to Americans.
China was having the worst year they've had in 67 years.
27 years.
And we were having the best year we've ever had.
Not even close to being true. We pulled that up yesterday. I don't have the chart now. Our GDP last year was 2.1%. China's was 6.1%.
With big tax cuts, with big regulation cuts, we've rebuilt our military. We became independent in terms of energy. We're the energy leader of the world. We were having the best year we've ever had. By the way, African American, Asian American, Hispanic American unemployment numbers, the best in the history of our country. All things, and many other groups too, including women, including high school diploma, no high school diploma, college diploma.
Not women.
The President of the United States taking questions at a news conference in Bedminster, New Jersey. We'll continue to monitor that back and forth.
No, come on. No one wants to hear Tucker. Jesus. Okay, we got to go back to C-SPAN, and that means we're going to miss some stuff. We'll go back. We'll check it out.
Pay for that without Congress, and will people still
you know
get
what?
$600 a week?
We have the money. We have the money.
They'll still get $600 a week?
I won't say that yet. You'll see that when it happens.
I almost saw the hockey score.
We have it, Justin.
Woo, that would have been bad.
Plenty of money. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr.
Don't mention the hockey score.
The pandemic is disappearing, but we lost 6,000 Americans this week. And just in this room, you have dozens of people who are not following the guidelines in New Jersey. Which
his members came down. They're not wearing masks.
It's a political activity.
Oh, he's getting booed for asking the question.
You're wrong on that, because it's a political activity. They have exceptions, political activity, and it's also a peaceful protest. So when you have
the people in this room are doing a peaceful protest, says Trump.
They asked if they could be. A number of, and to me they look like they all have, pretty much all have masks on. But you have an exclusion in the law. It says peaceful protest or political activity, right? fact, specifically, yeah, it says exactly political activity or peaceful protest. And you could call it political activity, but I'd call it peaceful protest because they heard you were coming up. And they know the news
there's
is
no
fake.
exception
They
listed in the mask
understand it better
mandate.
than anybody. And they asked whether or not they can be here. Like the question about Russia, he doesn't mention Iran was in the report. He doesn't mention, or he mentions very late that China was in the report, because that's the way they are. They're not.
Hold on.
If the press in
deeper.
this country were honest, it wasn't corrupt, if it wasn't fake, our country would be so much further ahead. But we're doing really great. Thank you all very much. Thank you very much.
There's nothing in there about political activity. We'll go back. We'll get all those questions. We'll let this do a second. I'm actually looking at the mask mandate right now. It is Executive Order 163 in New Jersey. I'll pull it over here so we can look at this together. We'll let C-SPAN reload itself. Okay. Outdoor areas, there are exceptions for. What else did he say? Protest? Let's pull up protest and see if there's anything in there about nothing in there about protests. We'll look up activity. Okay, so we've got 12 activities. High intensity, including whether engaging in high intensity, so that's nothing. Guidance for sports activities, sports activities. Okay, let's just go down here manually. It's only 8 pages long. And let's just do freedom, just in case it's a freedom of speech clause. So, yeah, Trump just called his gathering at the club a peaceful protest. It does not appear to be in the law itself. I'm just scanning through it right here. It is Executive Order 163 in New Jersey, signed by Governor Murphy. Consistently required, food and beverage. Okay, whereas office buildings, blah, blah, blah. Okay. When it's not practicable for individuals in indoor public spaces to socially distance and keep a 6-foot distance for others, excluding immediate family members, caretakers, household, blah, blah, blah. Consistent with paragraph 3 of Executive Orders number 107, all individuals shall wear face coverings. Shall not apply when wearing a face covering would inhibit the individual's health, including when engaging in high-intensity aerobic and aerobic activities, when in the water, or if somebody's under 2 years old. So emotionally speaking, he may have a point, but nothing in here about executive orders or rather political protests or the like. So that's just nonsense. Let's go back and see if we can catch those questions, see if it's been... Let me click on it. Yeah, we can. Okay, here we go.
You go ahead on your own on unemployment insurance.
People, Steve Mnuchin, universal mail-in ballots. Russia, why don't you start off with China? Do you think China's maybe a bigger threat? I mean, I think maybe it is. I mean, you'll have to figure it out. But we're going to watch all of them. We have to be very careful. The biggest risk that we have is mail-in ballots, because with the mail-in ballots, called universal mail-in ballots, it is a much easier thing for a foreign power, whether it's Russia, China, Iran.
How do they print the security codes? How do they get the lists, and how do they print the security codes, and how do they do all of the signatures?
It's easier for them to cheat.
How?
Universal mail-in ballots.
Ask them.
I think one of the things we'll have to look at is exactly that. But that's a big problem. That's a big problem. You saw in New York they called the winner, but they have no idea what the vote is. Please, go ahead.
They know exactly what the vote is.
We've watched these negotiations go on for weeks. Do you think if you had been more directly involved, we would be in a different position?
No, I'm totally involved. No, they call me all the time. They tell me how they're doing with Nancy and Chuck. But in my opinion, they're just using it as an excuse to try and, Chuck Schumer came out with a strong statement today that you have to get back into school because it's good for the economy, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't practice what he preaches. No, my people, Steve Mnuchin and our wonderful chief of staff, Mark Meadows, they're constantly on the phone with me. I'm totally involved with it, and we are going to do it in a way that's just much easier. We gave them their chance, but they view it as an election enhancement. You talk about foreign countries. cheating on the election. Well, the
election
Democrats are
enhancement.
cheating on the election because that's exactly what they're doing. If you look at what they're doing, even with these negotiations, that's an influence and an unfair influence on an election. But we're going to win anyway. Yeah, please go ahead.
When was the last time you spoke to Speaker Pelosi, though? We're at this historic moment. Why haven't you spoken?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But right now, they're not ready. And they're not ready because, frankly, I don't think they care about people. I think they care about their politicians that have done a terrible job running the cities and states, Democrat cities and states, that are bleeding money, that have been so badly run. You take a look at Baltimore, and you take a look at so many different cities, including the ones I've already mentioned. Take a look at what's going on. And they want lots of money to keep it going. For many years, they've been bad. So all I'm doing is we're having it out. We're finally having it out. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, if you go ahead on your own on unemployment insurance, I'm wondering both where you're going to get the money to pay for that without Congress, and will people still get $600 a week?
We have the money. We have the money.
They'll still get
Where?
$600 a week?
I won't say that yet. You'll see that when it happens, but we have the money.
Will you say what number?
We have it, Justin. We have plenty of money. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. President. You said that the pandemic is disappearing, but we lost 6,000 Americans this week. And just in this room, you have dozens of people who are not following.
I think this is where we caught up again.
Say you should not have more.
No, they don't have to. It's a political activity.
You have dozens of people who are not following the guidelines in New Jersey, which say you should not have more.
No, they don't have to. It's a political activity.
So they boo. And again, an exception for political activity? No, why would there be? But that makes no sense whatsoever.
You're wrong on that because it's a political activity. They have exceptions, political activity, and it's also a peaceful protest. So when you have, and as you know, they asked if they could be, you know, a number of, and to me they look like they all have, pretty much all have masks on, but you know, you have an exclusion in the law. It says peaceful protest or political activity, right?
No.
In fact,
No, you don't.
specifically, yeah, it says exactly political activity or peaceful protest. And you can call it political activity, but I'd call it peaceful protest because
He kind of pretends to look down and read what the law said. He's not looking at anything. There's not. At least it's not on the New Jersey website. I mean, you know, the actual executive order signed by the governor.
they heard you were coming up, and they know the news is fake.
Uh-oh. What happened? Okay, we're going back. I'm not sure what happened there, kids.
Yeah. I know the press said.
Directly involved, we would be in a different position.
No, I'm totally involved. No, they call me all the time. They tell me how they're doing with Nancy and Chuck. But in my opinion, they're just using it as an excuse to try and, you know, Chuck Schumer came out with a strong statement today that you have to get back into school because it's good for the economy. But he doesn't do it. He doesn't practice what he preaches. No, my people, Steve Mnuchin and our wonderful chief of staff, Mark Meadows, they're constantly on the phone with me. I'm totally involved with it. And we are going to do it in a way that's just much easier. We gave them their chance, but they view it as an election enhancement. You know, you talk about foreign countries cheating on the election. Well, the Democrats are cheating on the election because that's exactly what they're doing. If you look at what they're doing, even with these negotiations.
They're cheating on the election because that's exactly what they're doing because of their negotiations.
That's an influence and an unfair influence on an election. But we're going to win anyway. Yeah, please go ahead.
When was the last time you spoke to Speaker Pelosi, though? We're at this historic moment. Why haven't you spoken?
We'll see. We'll see what happens. But right now, they're not ready. And they're not ready because, frankly, I don't think they care about people. I think they care about their politicians that have done a terrible job running the cities and states, Democrat cities and states, that are bleeding money, that have been so badly run. You take a look at Baltimore, and you take a look at so many different cities, including the ones I've already mentioned. Take a look at what's going on. And they want lots of money to keep it going. For many years, they've been bad. So all I'm doing is we're having it out. We're finally having it out.
Okay, here's the bottom line. I haven't found anything about an exemption in the New Jersey executive order for wearing masks for political protests or for political gatherings or anything like that. That's just nonsense. What I did find was Governor Murphy saying about protests, You have the absolute right to go out peacefully and rightfully protest, but please be smart about your health. He urged protesters to be cautious by wearing face coverings and social distancing whenever possible. That's from the governor, who makes the executive order that Trump just called a law. I mean, technically it is. Anyway, so Danielle, we're leaving. This is it. I got to go get glass. I don't need gas. I use hydrogen, which is gas. Anyway, I got to take off. And Kevin daughter is waiting to go shopping because she's out of food and she needs her special food. It's like having a pet that only eats one kind of dog food and it's only at the specialty store. So we got to go do that. And I got to go get the glass before some protester, some anarchist pilfers my glass, which is hidden behind a planter. So we got to do that. And as I predicted, nothing. This was a press conference called, an emergency press conference called for nothing. All he did was list down some attributes that he claims are. It was just watching a Hannity episode. That's what we just did without Hannity, which, I mean, is better. And then lied about political protest exemptions and mass ordinances. Anyone else? How can this guy? Chris Hayes did an interesting segment at the beginning yesterday of his show, All In with Chris Hayes on MSNBC. Take a look at it. You don't have to watch it because I'll tell you what was in it. So Trump has 32% approval support right now. That's his bottom line. That's his base. Herbert Hoover in the Great Depression got 32% of the vote. Jimmy Carter got 41% of the vote. Got hammered, 41% of the vote. 38% of the vote, I think, for Hoover. I have to double check that. Basically, and Walter Mondale got plastered by, remember that Reagan won everything except the District of Columbia. 50 states, I think. I was alive at the time, but I wasn't paying that close to it. I just know that for his second term, Ronald Reagan swept the country. Mondale got absolutely crushed, but he still got 40% of the vote. 41% of the vote. I could look that up. Basically saying that even the very worst, even the biggest shellackings in American history, basically 2 out of 5 Americans always vote for the loser. So, yeah, Trump's approval rating might be at 40% right now. In fact, let's take a look at it here. Presidential approval. I'll pull that up right now. I'm just looking at the Gallup of presidential approval. 538's theoretically more accurate, but let's go to the Trump job approval under Gallup because that's the one that's standardly quoted. Right now, his approval rating is 41%, which is right in line with. The ridiculous thing is, and I don't want to help the guy, but the ridiculous thing is he set himself up after sabotaging these talks to sign an executive order that may or may not do anything, but people will say, yay, Trump got me my money. Yay, fantastic. He will do anything to stay out of jail right now, but he's not smart enough to realize that if he does that, it boosts his chance in the election. He might let this drag on. He might continue to sabotage it and rail against the Democrats on a daily basis and finally step in and say, I will fix it. I will fix it. And look like a hero, at least in his eyes, and boost his approval rating to 43% or somewhere in that. But it's because I care about Americans. I'm for the little man. Anyway. So yeah, basically, even no matter what, 41% of the population, it's always going to be a 60-40 split. If we said, hey, everybody, let's clone Hitler and make him the superintendent of every school in the United States, 40% of the people would be like, Middleman wouldn't like it, that's for sure. Not that guy. Yeah, we need to... Panda calls her room the habitat. So we need to get some food for the panda enclosure. So I will see you guys, I don't know, maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day. After that, I've got a hockey game to watch. I do not know the score. It could be Edmonton's final game of the season, which means only 4 games. They're in a 5-game qualifier right now, and they're down 2-1. So I will be on radio silence for a while until I watch that game. And I can't do it right now because I got to go pick up glass and fix the panda the panda habitat. Okay, kids, it's been good talking to you all. Have a great weekend. If I don't talk to you, I will be back later. Trump will probably do another news conference at some point because he seems to enjoy it, having his peaceful protests. You guys have a safe and happy holiday Monday. And I know it's Monday? No, holiday Friday. Man, I screwed that up. Trump took a holiday today because, pandemic. We'll see you later.
Kevin, is this helpful to Joe Biden?